Good evening, everybody. I'm Fictional Crystals. And here's a theory on how I think Steven will be able to communicate with Rose Quartz. I actually made this theory a long time ago, just after Gem Drill aired. But I think it still stands, with even more information supporting it now. Basically, the theory is Steven can communicate to Rose through his room. Okay, you're probably thinking, duh, we already knew that. He can talk to anyone he wants in his room. And yes, that is true, but they're just mindless copies that do whatever he tells them to. Or not in the case of that Connie. Steven will see a projection of Rose, but in a much more complex way. We know Steven can astral project himself. He's done it with Lapis, Jasper, and others. This means Rose also had this ability. Most of the time he did it, it was unintentional. It happened on a subconscious level. Like what happened with Stevonnie, they unintentionally ended up inside Garnet's mind. At least I think that was Garnet's mind. Because it was what they needed. Garnet needed to help them. And Garnet knew they were capable of entering her mind. Inside the mindscape, they could communicate with those that weren't physically there, but their gems were, since they were all a part of fusions. Well, except for Connie, since she doesn't have a gem. These copies were just like the originals. They weren't told what to do. They had their own feelings. In a way, they were astral projections from their fusion subconscious. The same goes for Lapis and Jasper inside of Malachite's mind. And the cluster. What do they all have in common? They're all fusions that Steven unintentionally astral projected himself into when they needed help, when he needed help. He went into Garnet's mind when him and Connie needed to get over their problems. He went into Malachite's mind when he wanted to check if Lapis was okay. He went into the cluster's mind when he needed to save the Earth. What does he need now? Closure from Rose. Steven is technically a fusion between Rose and Greg. Rose's gem is still present, and he needs her more than anything right now. What if, through Steven's subconscious, Rose is able to astral project herself into his room? Much like how that Connie knew what Steven really wanted through his subconscious. That Connie didn't act like a mindless robot that was just following orders at that point. She really knew what he wanted. Rose could do the same. In fact, I think she already has. The pink floating whale in Steven's room had Rose's voice. It was literally Rose's voice actress, and she was using Rose's voice. Keep in mind, this was before we actually met Rose. So Steven had no idea what Rose sounded like at that point. The whale stated, "What do you want, Steven?" We know that Rose always did what she wanted. Even if it wasn't best for her, she did what was best for the Earth. But she died so that she could do what was best for her son. She let him be something she never could, a human being. She had no idea how much pain her decisions would cause him. Rose didn't know what Steven would be like. She didn't know what he wanted. So that question, what do you want, Steven, is very important. Yes, I am saying that that whale was Rose. Steven usually astral projects himself when him and the person he's astral projecting to needs help. Rose would have done the same. Steven needed her help at that point, and Rose needed to understand what he wanted. Other similarities between Rose and the whale is they're both pink, they both can float, and Rose is rather large, like a whale typically is. Look at the scene when Steven astral projects himself to the cluster and asks what it wants. Let's compare the two scenes together. They look eerily similar. You'll notice in both photos they are gasping. There are hundreds of colourful shards covering a black background. And the two of them are both asking what someone wants. Actually, now that I think about it, that Connie knew what Stephen really wanted. What if she was another echo of Rose's voice? In conclusion, Rose was astral projecting herself into Stephen's mind, like how Stephen astral projected himself into the clusters. Stephen didn't know it was her at the time since he had never heard her voice before. And he didn't know of astral projection at the time. One day, Stephen will be able to talk to Rose when he needs her most. Be it through astral projection, his room, or a combination of both. Or maybe she'll come to him in his dreams. She's been subconsciously with him all this time, helping him, giving him life advice, but at the same time, he fears her. He doesn't know what to believe about her. He doesn't know how he feels about her. Just like the fandom. Who better to teach him about what Rose was really like than Rose herself? Or at least a projection of Rose. What do you guys think of this theory? Will Stephen ever get to physically meet Rose, or will he just see her in his dreams? Tell me in the comments, and feel free to add anything onto this. I don't think that they will physically meet each other for a very long time, if not at all. Like how Stephen and Connie can't physically be with Stevonnie in anything other than a mindscape. But I do believe Stephen's already met Rose on a psychological level. See you later.